Ojai. Dominican Republic, the state and east part of the island of Haiti. Caribbean Sea. And on coastal islands. The western part of the island, 36% of the territory, is occupied by the state, the Republic of Haiti. The island is a part of the archipelago of the Big Antilles. The capital, Santo Domingo. Official language, Spanish. The population of the state, about 10.5 million people. 2020. The most part of the history. To independence. The colony was known as Santo Domingo in honor of her saint defender Dominica. Inhabitants were called by Dominicanos, Dominicans. An adjective formed from Domingo, and revolutionaries called the independent country, La República Dominican Republic. La República Dominicana. Except the main territory on the island of Haiti, Hispaniola. Dominican Republic possesses many small islands. The largest of them, Sana at the southeast coast of the island of Haiti. Isla Catalina at the southern coast. Beata at the southwest coast. Cayo Levantado at the northeast coast. Until the end of the 15th century, the territory of modern Dominican Republic Indian tribes occupied. In 1492, the island of Haiti was opened by Christopher Columbus. Columbus called these lands of Hispaniola. Then the history of colonial conquest of America at the beginning of the 16th century began. Spaniards colonized the island. After the Great Britain and France began to apply for the island. In 1697 the Rijksfiksche World, on which the western part of the island departed to France, was signed, and east part remained with Spain. After the beginning of War of France with Great Britain and Spain, all island in 1795 was occupied by the French troops. In 1804 on the island the revolt, as a result of which the French colonialists were expelled, broke up. In 1808 Spain returned its southeast part of the island again. In 1821, as a result of liberating War of Santo Domingo, it was exempted from colonialists, but in 1822 got under control of the neighboring Republic of Haiti again. In 1844 there was an anti-Haitian revolt, and an east part of the island Dominican Republic was proclaimed. Pedro Santana became its first president. After declaration of independence in Dominican Republic, the long period of political and economic instability began. Santana, who lost support of the population in search of an exit from current situation, asked Spain to annex Dominican Republic. As a result, Spain, which first was afraid of resistance of islanders, annexed on March 18, 1861 Dominican Republic. In 1865 the revolt against the Spanish board under the leadership of Gregorio Luperón began. Insurgents got support of Haiti and began to act on the north and the west of the Republic. As a result, Spaniards were finally expelled. The economic situation in the country remained unstable, and the President Baez led negotiations on accession of the country to the USA. In 1869 he managed to sign the contract on inclusion of Dominican Republic in structure of the USA with the Secretary of State Seward. However, in 1871 the American Senate refused to ratify it. Then a series of revolutions followed. In 1882 the General Ulysses Aira proclaimed himself the president. In July 1899 he was killed by Ramon Caceres, the president who subsequently became. Meanwhile, the country got to economic dependence on great powers more and more, and first of all from the USA. In February 1905, the United States of America took finance and customs of Dominican Republic under control. In the Republic there were coups. On July 19, 1911, the President Ramon Caceres was killed. In April 1916, the revolt to which suppression the USA sent the contingent broke up. On May 5, 1916, troops of the USA occupied Dominican Republic. In July 1924, the American troops left Dominican Republic, but nevertheless the USA continued to retain economic control over her. In 1930, Rafael Trujillo, who governed up to the death in 1961, became the president of the country. His government carried out repressions in relation to opposition. Discrimination of Haitian immigrants was carried out. During World War II, Dominican Republic declared war of Germany, Italy and Japan, but her armed forces weren't involved in fighting against troops of Axis. During Rafael Trujillo's government, Dominican Republic was one of the few countries that at the Evian Conference, 1938, expressed in protection of Jews, and the only thing from 32 states someone expressed readiness to accept a large number of refugees, namely 200,000 Jewish refugees. However, as it is considered, conditions of wartime prevented arrival in the country of considerable number of immigrants. Nevertheless, for years of World War II, the number of the Jewish community increased in the country from 40 to 1,000 people, whose most part after war moved to other countries. According to estimated data, in 2000 in Dominican Republic there lived about 200 Jews. The majority in the capital, the city of Santo Domingo. About 30 families live in Sosua, where they during war by means of joint-based dairy farms, vegetable farms and created banana plantations. After 1955, Trujillo's regime began to experience considerable difficulties. The economic crisis began. In these conditions in 1956 there was an armed revolt minus Trujillo, which was suppressed by means of government troops. In June 1959 from Cuba the group of emigrants, planning Trujillo overthrow, but this attempt to excite a rebellion landed, it was stopped. In 1960 Trujillo was involved in attempt at the Venezuelan President Romulo Betancourt. We entered against Dominican Republic embargo on supply of oil and trucks. In the conditions of the accruing political and economic crisis on May 30, 1961, Trujillo was killed. Joaquin Balaguer became the president of the country. In January 1962, Balaguer was overthrown and fled to the USA. In December 1962, as a result of the held elections by the president, there was Juan Bosch. Having come to the power, he began implementation of radical reforms, preparation of national shots and planned to undertake agrarian reform. On September 25, 1963, Bosch was overthrown as a result of the next military coup, which organizers branded him as the communist. From September 1963 to April 1965, the so-called civil triumvirate ran the country. On April 24, 1965 in the country there was a military revolt headed by the Colonel Francisco Camano, whose organizers demanded recovery of the Constitution of 1963 and return to the power of the overthrown Juan Bosch, for as are called, constitutionalists. On April 25 Rizal occupied Santo Domingo and overthrew a civil triumvirate. Francisco Camano was appointed the interim president of the country. A part of army was on the side of the overthrown triumvirate, the new junta headed by E. Vicente Iverson's general set tanks and aircraft on the capital. On April 25 the United States President Lyndon Johnson gave the order to a group of the ships to go to coast of Dominican Republic. On April 28 intervention of the American troops to Dominican Republic began. Next day interventionists occupied coastal areas of the capital and all coast of the country. On April 30 a truce was called. The United States President Lyndon Johnson justified intervention, claiming that communistic elements tried to take the movement of constitutionalists under control. In June 1965 presidential elections at which victory was won by Joaquin Balaguer were held. In September troops of the USA left Dominican Republic. In 1970 from emigration Juan Bosch returned and I created Party of the Left Orientation, PART. In 1970 and 1974 Balaguer was re-elected on the presidency. Elections of 1978 were benefited by Antonio Guzman Fernandez from PART. During his board external debt sharply increased because of increase in prices for the imported oil and reduction of prices of goods of Dominican export, coffee, sugar and raw materials. Guzman resolutely fought against corruption, but committed suicide when opened that his daughter and the son-in-law, being on administrative posts, took bribes. In 1982 the candidate of PART El Salvador Jorge Blanco, who promised to liquidate corruption, became the president also and to undertake agrarian reform, however met large financial difficulties, was forced to ask for financial aid. The IMF, according to his recommendation, reduced volumes of the state subsidizing of food and essentials that caused sharp increase in prices and social tension and large disorders in 1984. In 1986 and 1990 elections were won by Joaquin Balaguer again. He undertook carrying out broad public works, but led his politician to deterioration in a situation in economy and to growth of external debt. In 1995 pre-election fight was entered by the candidate from the Party of Release, PLD. Fernandez Reina, and put forward the next program of fight against corruption, poverty and unemployment. In 1996 he won with result in 51.2%. In 2000 the victory at presidential elections was won by Mejia, the candidate of Revolutionary Party, PART. 49.8% of voters voted for him. In 2004 Leonel Fernandez was elected the president from 57% of voices again. Following elections, Dominican Republic has diplomatic relations with the Russian Federation. With the USA diplomatic relations were established on March 8, 1945. In March 1991 the agreement on exchange of ambassadors in combination was reached. Between 2006 and 2010 the number of the Russian tourists who visited Dominican Republic increased 5 times and in 2010 made about 8,000 people. Dominican Republic doesn't maintain close relations with the majority of the countries of Africa, Asia, the Middle East and Eastern Europe. At Dominican Republic it isn't adjusted extensive trade, tourist routes or diplomatic contacts with the majority of these countries, and therefore, their embassies or diplomatic missions of this country seldom meet. Dominican Republic isn't a great power, and is rather poor state, isn't able to afford to support large-scale diplomatic mission in other countries. Dominican Republic carries out vigorous diplomatic activity on regions for the major for itself. West Indies, Latin America, United States of America and Western Europe. The Constitution of November 28, 1966 approved a democratic system in the country. Now the Constitution adopted by National Assembly in July 2002 works. Local authorities. The President appoints and recalls governors of provinces of the country. Following the results of elections in May 2010 in Parliament are presented. Dominican Party of Release, left. Ruling. 31 senators, 92 deputies. Dominican Revolutionary Party, left centrist. Oppositional. 57 deputies. Social and Christian Reform Party, right centrist. Oppositional. 1 senators, 4 deputies. The Christian and Democratic Union, centrist. 1 deputy. The National Christian Party is right centrist. 1 deputy. 13 more political parties participated in the last elections. Population minus 10.5 million. 2020. Annual gain minus 0.95%. According to the average forecast, the population of the country by 2100 will make minus 11.4 million people. Birth rate minus 18.5 for 1000. Fertility minus 2.24 births only women, infantile mortality minus 20.9 for 1000. Mortality minus 6.3 for 1000. Average life expectancy minus 70 years at men, 74 years is at women. Contamination a virus of an immunodeficiency. HIV. Minus 0.9%. Assessment for 2018. Urban population minus 82.5%. Age structure, children up to 14 years make 26.85% of the population of the country, people are more senior than 65 years minus 6.29%. The special group of the population is made by illegal immigrants of Haiti, mainly black, which often are exposed to discrimination and become the reason of social tension in certain provinces and municipalities of the country. State language, Spanish. Literacy minus 93.8%. According to 2016. Religions. 69.1% Christians. Includes 47.8% of Catholics and 21.3% of Protestants. 28% atheists. Others minus 1. 53%, including Jehovah's Witnesses for 2017, 1.37%. Dominican Republic almost completely is Hispanic. Besides, because of the old and continuing immigration from Haiti, in Dominican Republic Creole language is spoken by several hundreds of thousands of immigrants and their descendants. There is also a community from about 800 native speakers of English in the province Samana. They are descendants of the released American slaves who arrived in Dominican Republic in the 19th century. A large number of tourists from the USA and economic relations of the country with the USA, which induces considerable number of Dominicans to learn English, have an impact on a language situation. The main revenues of the country are yielded by the customs duties, tourism and money transfers from immigrants. Export of sugar, coffee and tobacco is of also great importance. GDP per capita $10, 319. 2015. Population below the poverty line 42% in 2004. Inflation 10.6% in 2008. Unemployment 15% in 2009. The industry 21% of GDP, 22% working. Sugar extraction of ferronickel and gold, textile, tobacco. Agriculture and livestock production 11% of GDP, 15% working. Sugar cane, coffee, cotton, cocoa, tobacco, rice, bean, potatoes, corn, bananas. Services industry -68% of GDP, 63% working. Export $8.73 billion in 2017. Gold 17%. Textile goods 14.3%. Cigarettes and cigars 8.7%. The electrotechnical equipment 5.8%. Bananas 4.3%. Main buyers: the USA -42%, Canada -9.9%, Haiti -9.5%, India -6.8%. Import 16. $7 billion in 2017. Fuel 17%. Machines and the equipment 14.7%. Cars 7%. Goods from plastic and rubber 8.6%. Food, tobacco, raw materials, drugs, etc. Chemical products. Main suppliers: the USA -42%, China -14%, Mexico -4.8%, Brazil -3.7%. In January 2004, the International Treaty of CAFTA is signed. The act enters into the International Organization of the Countries. The railroads with a total length of 1200 km are represented by 3 lines. The Dominican State Railroad connects the city of Concepción de la Vega with the port of Sanchez and serves for transportation of export freights. Sugar, cocoa, coffee, tobacco. Track width -1067, 762 and 558. Railroad central of the Roman. Extent -375 km with a track of 1435. Railroad central Rio of Jaén. Extent -113 km with a track of 1435. In the locomotive park, locomotives are used. On February 27, 2008, official opening of the first line of the subway was carried out to Santo Domingo. The subway meanwhile consists of two lines, first of which begins on crossing of Winston Churchill Avenue and Nezavisosti Avenue and comes to an end on Sisters Mirabal Avenue. Dominican Republic is especially attractive to active occupation by diving. For divers, there are several places near the islands of Catalina and Sana. Skilled divers should pay attention to Padre Nuestro, the extended system of underwater caves with picturesque stalactites. Among tourists, the complex of falls in the neighborhood of the city of Jarabacoa is also popular. Aero located Armando Bermudez Reserve. In 2011, the country was visited by 4.3 million tourists, generally from the countries of Latin America and the USA. The number of the Russian tourists in 2011 made 44693. Dominican Republic is known as the homeland of musical styles and dances to a dembow, a merengue and a bachata. The state broadcasting company, CERT. Corporación Estatal de Radio y Televisión, State Corporation of Radio and Television. Includes TV channels, CND. Television Nacional Dominicana, Dominican National Television. Quisqueya TV, radio channels of Radio Santo Domingo, Dominicana FM and Quisqueya FM. In 2016 in the country, the following indicators of distribution of communication services were noted. The percent of the households using broadband internet access -26.20%, the personal computer has -32.00% of households. Total number of mobile phones -8,769,127 pieces. In 2018, 75% of citizens of the country used the internet, 83% of the population used mobile phones, 100% of the population are in a cover zone of cellular communication. 97% live in a cover zone 4G. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.